I'm here. So
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Howdy, Oklahoma.
My name is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
Dead gum.
I'm Josh Giddey, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
Is that like you eat them together?
everybody tells him to get the bag of burgers.
I need like a straw. Like
Howdy. I'm an artist on the court.
this is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
My name is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
It might be Aaron Wiggins.
This is a troll. It's a troll. I'm trolling. Howdy, Papa.
Because I think it would take away from who he is, you know? Yeah.
I love Oklahoma. I love Oklahoma to death.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Perfect. Very good.
I like the hat.
You like that?
Vava.
This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk. I've been doing a lot of dunking.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays is my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew?
We Down to Dunk night in less than a week now.
Yeah, pretty
Against
exciting.
I mean, I feel like it's. I mean, I was excited certainly for Chet Wemby,
Certainly.
but now I'm
And
like,
we'll get the court, right?
yeah, we get the court. There's so
That's
many,
cool.
so many
Pumped about
things
that.
to be pumped about.
I'm going to be there. My mom's going to be there.
Yeah, Joanne. Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be so fun. Next Tuesday night, if you are going to come to Down to Dunk night, meet us at Spark at like 4:45 ish. The game starts at 6:30, so just be aware of that. So we're gonna meet at Spark, just across the street from the arena, at 4:45. Little meet and greet. We're gonna eat some burgers and fries, and their food is delicious. It's very good. So. Be prepared.
Looking like it's going to be 66 and partly sunny. Sounds pretty nice.
Yeah, it should be nice. We should be able to eat outside and inside. It's going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And then we'll watch the game together. And then we will meet on the court after the game. And I think we'll meet outside of section probably 104. And they usually give people who are in attendance and like have a ticket, a Down to Dunk night ticket, a little sticker to go out on the court, and then we'll all go to the court to take a picture, half court shot contest, and it's going to be awesome. So looking forward to that. And it's against the Spurs, which is just going to be so much fun to watch Wemby and Chet go head to head. They did it once in the preseason, but like the preseason is just not real. And so this game will mean something, and it's part of the in-season tournament. You get the cool jerseys, you get the weirdo court. It's going to be awesome. So looking
And
forward.
it's a national game?
National TV game, TNT.
Wow.
There's just so many things. There's so many layers to why this is going to be an amazing time. So be there, be square. Okay, Al. The Thunder beat the Hawks on Monday night. They played pretty well. They're definitely. It's an interesting game because you can see things that they're good at, and like the firepower that they have as a team was on full display, and then like their weaknesses were also on full display. They gave up 25 offensive rebounds, which they didn't. Franchise record. They you would think that they would have set the offensive rebound record last year for an opponent. No. It was this year. It's like, oh man, once we get our 7-footer, I think they had 24 once last year. But yeah, 25 offensive rebounds is a lot. And Mark clearly knows that it's an issue. And I thought we could do something that is just absolutely insane and watch every single one of them, you and me, here together with the people here on YouTube. And then like try to like actually discuss like what the issues are. Because a lot of times you can say like, oh, they're not physical enough. They're not this, they're not that. But like rewatching them, and I've already rewatched them once, but I'd love to just discuss like what are the issues and like talk about like, hey, this is a controllable rebound. This was not. And this was
because I mean, Mark has even talked about when you play the way we play, you're giving up certain things and you're also gaining certain things. So we know that they're not going to be an amazing rebounding team.
Yeah.
It's just they've been so bad. I mean, even compared to last season where they weren't a good rebounding team, but in in some respects they were kind of like average or middle of the pack or just below average. Um, Now they're just like bottom of the pack in both offensive and defensive rebounding. And you kind of understand the offensive rebounding because just watching them, like every time a shot goes up, you see the majority of the players already running back to get on defense. Sometimes it's only like one guy crashing the boards. So you kind of understand that. Like it's part of their setup. But the defensive rebounding is where you feel like they should be better because they were better last year. Even with, not having a real center for the entire year, they were better than this. This kind of feels like rock bottom in terms of like their defensive rebounding. It can only get better. I don't know how it could get much worse.
Yeah, they're 29th in offensive and defensive rebounding, 25th in overall rebound percentage. But I think that's just because they play so many more possessions.
Are they
Teams do.
Is 30th, I think, is the Wizards for at least one of those.
Zards are in offensive rebound percentage 30th. And then it's just like really funny to me that the Pelicans are the worst
I know that is kind of crazy.
defensive rebounding team in the league so far. It just like feels really bizarre. Okay, so I'm gonna go through all of these. These are from NBA.com. There's some really interesting ones. There's some like very run of the mill offensive rebounds. So let's go through these.
As Shea once again quickly able to bounce off of Johnson. That time it had stripped away by Murray, who used to.
That was labeled as an offensive rebound per NBA.com.
Okay, so we're already down to 24.
So obviously not even an offensive rebound. I don't know if that was
down to 24. Okay.
Hey,
always unselfish with the basketball, finding his teammates.
Just look at some of the assist numbers as DeJounte Murray is off. As Capella.
So that was labeled as an offensive rebound. It was just a tap by Capella that ended up in Isaiah Joe's hands. So also like not really an offensive rebound.
Okay, so 23.
So
what if we get to the end of this and it turns out they got 0 offensive rebounds because they were all labeled incorrectly?
Yeah, it's strange because like some of these they just flat out the Hawks don't even secure them. So like it's weird that they're being counted as offensive rebounds. Like some of these are weird. It's like it's a quote unquote
something, Andrew.
Franchise record that they gave up.
Wow.
You know what? This is
like
revealing.
Did you see the thing on Twitter? Cam Thomas was like 4 of 19 in a game, and some Nets fan went through everything and started saying, okay, well, that was a heave, so it was really 4 of 18. This shot, I mean, that's not really, I'm not going to blame him for that. So that's 4 of 18. He just like was able to get it down to like 4 of 14, which is still terrible.
He was really 4 of 8. He was great, 50%.
That's what we're going to do today. Okay.
Here's the next one.
Oh, my goodness. Man, I thought that Clint blocked that ball out.
Like he blocked it out of bounds.
Yeah.
Hunter checks the tape and capitalized, but DeJounte Murray streaks in.
So this is just like watching the ball, not putting a body on somebody. Like that's a controllable one. That's one where they sit and they're reviewing film and saying like DeJounte Murray shouldn't just be able to run all the way into the paint to get the offensive board. Like that's a pretty egregious one that is controllable by the Thunder. That is the first one that I would say controllable by the Thunder.
Yeah. So I feel like that and another type of one that we'll get to are like the two most common.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of times, I don't know if in that clip particularly, but you can like screenshot it when the ball hits the rim and there's like 4 Thunder players in the paint.
Yeah.
But there's a Hawks player just streaking in from the 3-point line and just goes in uncontested. I think that is a very common thing that I have seen watching these early games. And that does feel like something that could be fixed. Yeah. Just stopping them, just impeding them in any way would change everything.
Putting a body on somebody, recognizing like where everybody is and like not, they just are standing there like
just hoping the ball bounces to them.
Just watching it and just, like that's control.
And obviously he's huge and he's amazing, but like that was one of the things that Steven Adams was so good at. And one of the reasons why his rebounding numbers were never as high as you thought they should be, because it was team rebounding. Like he was making sure that everything was clear so that somebody else, usually Russ, could go in there and get the rebound.
Yeah, he was always ready to put a body on somebody. All right, next
For the Thunder.
Held the Hawks to just 39 points here in the first half. Turnaround shot, no good. Johnson streaks and way too strong on the put.
Yeah, so the first one, another example. You have Jalen Johnson, I think, this time streaking in from the 3-point. It would probably be Dort who would need to be paying attention to him. The second one with Capella, if that counts as a second one, there are some where it's like, yeah, you have Clint Capella going up against SGA and Dort. Like he's going to get a lot of those rebounds.
Yeah.
Those are the ones where like you're willing to understand it, because this is the downside of playing these types of lineups. Sometimes you're going to get a matchup with Capella on a guy who's, 6'5" or 6'6". He's going to easily get a rebound. But the one where the guys are just streaking in and no one's botting them up, those are definitely correctable.
Yeah, that was another one where it's like they shouldn't be able to run in from the 3-point line, or DeJounte was really like running in transition all the way back in. Like those are controllable. They should be able to figure those out.
That 3-point attempt, Matthews way off. Offensive rebound by Bay.
So I think that was one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was that the one where I just missed it at the beginning? But I think Giddey is on Sadiq Bey.
Yeah.
And he is technically boxing him out, and Sadiq just pushes him, not in like a foul way, but just like bigger and stronger. Just moves him out of the way.
That 3-point attempt, Matthews way off. Offensive rebound by Bay.
Again, I've seen this a lot in these clips so far, where this is Sadiq Bey rebounding over Giddey. He does push him a little bit, but a lot of it is like Giddey is not like standing in like a box out position. He's standing upright in front of him. He's not boxing him out.
Yeah, when he pushes him,
straight.
He moves so easily.
Yeah.
It's not like a big like, whoa.
It's because he doesn't have a wide base, and he's like not putting his body into Bey. Like Bey is able to just like, and they could have called an offensive foul on Bey there, but like he just kind of like shoves him a little bit. He's moved and he gets the ball. And Sadiq Bey is like crazy strong too.
Yeah, he's very big.
But I would say that's a fourth offensive rebound. That's like, okay. Like that shouldn't they can
minus the fake 2 and then 4 that they can correct. We're down to 18, Andrew.
We're down to 18.
Let's go.
Young took a peek at the shot clock. Bounces off of Wiggins, who stays down nicely, but there is Bogdanovich again from the outside. Had a clean look. Bey with the loose ball.
This is one. I'm coaching a 12U basketball team right now, and like this one is just a coach's nightmare, where Bey is like standing there all alone, just waiting, and Wiggs is on one side, Isaiah Joe's on the other side, and there's nobody boxing out Sadiq Bey. Like that one was bad. Like that,
or
that
even
was
like an attempt to contest the rebound once it's in the air. Like they just are flat-footed, just waiting for him to get it, and then they're going to try to defend him.
Yeah, and like a theme so far with the offensive rebounding that's happening with the Hawks is like they're just ready, and the Thunder are not. Like the Thunder are not ready to defensive rebound, and it's not. What I've seen so far is not oh my gosh, the Thunder are not big enough. They don't have there are so many of those, and there are going to be some in here later where we see Capella and Okongwu who can just flat out rebound better than our guys. But the ones that go to DeJounte Murray, Sadiq Bey, like those guys, it's just a matter of like getting a body on somebody and being in position. Like that's the problems that I've seen so far. And we'll get to some where it's like, oh yeah, like they weren't going to get that anyways. But all right, next.
He can't finish. Here comes.
That is not that.
You want that to continue in the fourth quarter.
And that, and also, you got a guy, DeJounte Murray, who's also, struggling a little bit.
Yeah, that is one where it's like that's just really good positioning. I think that was Okongwu.
Yeah, it was Okongwu.
He had good positioning on Chet. Was in great position to get that rebound.
Yeah,
I
physically
not as bad as the other ones.
Out of the way, like literally, Chet fell to the ground in this one?
Yeah.
I mean, let's watch it again.
You want that to continue in the fourth quarter.
And that, and also, you got a guy, DeJounte Murray, who's also, struggling a little bit.
I don't even quite understand why he fell to the ground.
I don't either. Okongwu was like blocking off both Chet and J-Dub.
Yeah. That one is like, you're gonna give that up, and you feel fine about that. Like, these guys are just bigger. Like, Okongwu he's not like obviously like super tall, but he's just strong, physical player, and like that's not necessarily within your control. You could be a little bit more physical. This is where a guy like Kenrich would come in handy. Like, Kenrich would not let him do that, and like they need Kenrich. They've needed him this whole time. I think he would have helped in a lot of ways. But yeah, that's one where I'm like, yeah, okay, that's one where the Thunder are just going to give it up.
Young, speed, at the step, no, Okongwu. Shot clock didn't reset, but it's going to be in travel.
I just see, honestly, a lot of Josh Giddey not putting a body on somebody. And like, that's the thing that Giddey has been good at in the past, is like using his physicality as a rebounder. And I thought, very good at it last year. That I haven't seen him quite as engaged so far this season. I don't know if it's just like he mentally seems like he is having a slow start. But it's I think it's just really interesting, how we see a lot of just like Giddey standing flat-footed in a lot of these. And I think it's like those fixable. Not necessarily that he was going to stop Okongwu there, but you just want to see a little bit more effort.
But
there
I also think it highlights how important Giddey is to playing this way. Because one of the reasons you can get away with it, even if they're not an amazing rebounding team, but just if they're like average or slightly below average, the reason you can get away with it is because Josh Giddey in his first 2 seasons was elite for his position at rebounding. And that has just not been the case to start this season. And we're going to go through some Giddey stats later, mostly talking about his offense. But I think that has actually been the most disappointing aspect, because we've seen him get off to slow starts. We saw it last year. Getting benched in the fourth quarter and things like that. But something like defensive rebounding is just something that he had been so good at previously. You almost weren't even, we weren't even talking about it going into the season. Like, yeah, we were talking about his issues with driving and can he get to the line, all that stuff. And that's still an issue, and we're going to talk about it. But we weren't even thinking of the defensive rebounding, because it seemed like, oh, this is just what he is. He's an elite rebounder for his position. And when that just suddenly vanishes, just goes away, it becomes a huge issue for this lineup, because he should be theoretically the best or second best rebounder on the floor whenever he's out there, based on who is on this roster.
No question. And I'm honestly like kind of encouraged from like seeing some of these, because I just think they can be better. Like so far, like the ones that we've gone through, there's just like a handful where I just think like, yeah, they were not going to get that board. There are others where it's like, yeah, like they are like effort away from getting rebounds. Like just a little bit of effort here and there, which I think they can do, and I think they will do. I assume that they have gone through an exercise where Mark embarrassingly points out a lot of these to them, and like they'll get it together, and they need to against Cleveland. Certainly with Jared Allen's back, they played Cleveland without Jared Allen the first time around, and had the miraculous win. But they're gonna have to bring it more than they did against Atlanta, even though they won against Atlanta. It was good. Like, it's a good, really good win. I mean, Atlanta's been good this year, and they've had a lot of really solid wins so far. But their Thunder are going to have to bring it a little bit more. And the thing that's interesting is like they are bringing it at the point of attack defense very well. Like, you have SGA, I thought, was awesome defensively against the Hawks. Dort's obviously bringing it every time. Cason Wallace is really good. I think J-Dub is good. Like, they really bring it there at the point of attack, and it's really tough.
Giddey got blown by.
But he's not even asked to be the point of attack defender.
I know, but there were so many plays in that Hawks game where he's just standing straight up and DeJounte Murray's just blowing by him, or DeAndre Hunter's blowing by him, like giving zero resistance.
There's a lot of standing upright. Yes. there is a lot of that, which is correctable. Like those are correctable. If like in these clips, if we're seeing Giddey battling and it's just not working, I might be a little bit more worried. Like, oh no, like he's like giving all he's got, and they give up 25 offensive rebounds. Like that's just not the case. Like so far I think like they can do better. All right, here's the next one.
Young, speed, and the step, no, Kongwu.
Already did that one. Next one.
Always unselfish with the basketball, finding his teammates.
Just look at some of the assist numbers as DeJounte Murray is off. As Capella just taps it over Isaiah Jones.
So we're
Fake
here
one.
Yeah, another fake one where they don't even secure it, but they give them the offensive rebound just because Capella's tapping it. And I think we're into the Capella ones now. These are all like separated by player. All right, next one.
Young took a peek at the shot clock. Bounces off of Wiggins, who stays down nicely, but there is Bogdanovich again from the outside. Had a clean look. Bay with the loose ball.
So this is, you see Capella, like Chet is doing all he can to box out Capella. He's like pushing him, but Capella is clearly gaining ground on him as he's pushing Chet forward, which kind of leads to like him tapping the ball off and then eventually it ending up in Jalen Johnson's hands. So that one is like, yeah, you're going to give up those, in my opinion. Like that's just Capella getting a hand on it, causing a little bit of chaos, and the ball just ends up, with Jalen Johnson there at the end.
I'm actually glad. Oh, we have a breaking news alert, Andrew. Breaking news alert. Down to Dunk specific. We have a new T-shirt now available as of right now.
As of right now.
As of right now on the Down to Dunk.
Oh, it's available
now. Link. I'm clicking on it right now. It is there for $33. Wow. Oh, you know what? Why don't I share my screen, Andrew?
I was going to say, share your screen. This is a great little interlude here.
All right, this is very exciting. Very exciting. Share screen, window. For the first time, you are getting to see our new shirt, the Slob Wizard shirt. And I will try to zoom in on that design.
Look at that beautiful shirt. Wow.
Look at that.
This is
very exciting.
Been working on this behind the scenes for a little bit. And here it is. Go get yourself a Slob Wizard shirt. It looks like a shirt that J-Dub would wear. So I'm really going to do whatever I can to get one of these shirts in his hands.
Very exciting.
I feel like he would really like it. Yeah, go get yourself a Slob Wizard shirt. You can go to the Down to Dunk Twitter account, and the Shopify link is in our biography. So go check that out. Very cool. Very, very cool. Okay. Oh, crap. I've got so many of these in here, and I don't know which is the last one I clicked on.
No.
Let's see.
Young took a peek at the shot clock. Bounces off of Wiggins, who stays down night.
Just watch that one. Again, we got to see Capella pushing Chet under the rim as far as
everything but finish.
Yeah, Clint Capella hand checked it all the way to the basket.
Quick trigger three.
That one, and it doesn't finish the play, but I remember watching it, and it was everybody watching the ball bounce like 3 times to get out of bounds. And Trae Young just whips over there and just grabs it. Like, do you remember that one in the game?
Yeah.
In the game? That one was just a weird one where it's just like, where's the...
I think everyone thought it was just going out of bounds.
Yeah.
And so they didn't chase after it. And Trae was like, well, I guess I'll go get it.
Yeah, that's like one that I just kind of flushed down the toilet a little bit. Like, okay. Like, that's just a weird one.
Reese on the defensive end. Young still working with the basketball. Finally passes over to Johnson. Johnson pops into that little mid-range shot. DeJounte Murray. Second effort. That 3 rattles in.
That was one I remembered because you can screenshot it, and there are 4 Thunder players in good position to rebound. Yeah. And they kind of just got unlucky because it took a huge bounce.
Huge bounce.
And Jalen Johnson, who shot the ball, was actually able to take a step back and able to get the rebound. There were a couple of those where it was just super long rebounds, and like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, what can you do? Like that
it's
is
not a guy rushing in.
Yes,
like
that's not a Thunder problem. That's just a bounce of the ball.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not anything.
Jalen Williams been all over DeJounte Murray throughout this game. Going up against 2 20-point scores, and that'll be a travel on Capella.
That's just Capella. Capella is strong. He's bigger than Josh Giddey. I mean,
I don't
maybe
think
Josh could have been a little more physical, but yeah.
Yeah, that's not an effort problem. That's not anything. That's just Clint Capella just being a better rebounder. Like just
And they
flat
did force him into a travel.
He did travel. They got no points. That's the thing. They only had 19 points off of what were 25 offensive rebounds that we know. Like it wasn't really 25 offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
We're watching it right here, and it's just not it. Okay, we're all.
You know, I'm glad we're doing this because I went back and rewatched this game, and I did not come away feeling like, man, they just got manhandled on the boards.
Yeah.
It did not feel that way rewatching it. I was going in expecting like, man, I don't really remember it, but they must have just been getting beasted on the boards.
Yeah.
And watching it just kind of feels like a normal game.
Yeah.
And now that we're seeing what was counted as an offensive rebound, it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Went through his hands like a defensive back. Hunter spots up, knew he was going to miss it. Offensive rebound.
Yeah, just another like long rebound, taking a lot of threes, long rebounds. They're going to get it. The Hawks are actually one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the NBA, like they were before that game too. And obviously, I haven't looked at the number. I'll look at it in a second, but that number had to have gone up from where it was. Okay, I think we have like 5 more.
Bogdanovich. No. Finally, the Thunder able to consolidate.
Again, Conley gets a hand on the ball. Conley crashes the boards, gets a hand on the ball, doesn't secure it. It goes to Giddey. Giddey gets the ball. That's not an offensive rebound.
But it was 4 of those.
Yeah, isn't that bizarre?
It is really weird.
Yeah, I mean, I would not label that as an offensive rebound. Like a rebound is like securing the ball.
Yeah.
You know, Torian Prince told us after that Baylor game, like what a rebound is. You know, like that's not what a rebound is. Okay, 3 more.
And some of them have led to free throws.
Trae Young all of a sudden playing with a ton of space and speed. Here he is again. Getting downhill. Missed it that time, but Okongwu underneath, and the putback by Onyeka Okongwu.
God, and that one was just like physicality. Like Onyeka Okongwu was going to get that board. And
yeah, that was a really impressive play by him.
Because the Thunder are not stout down low. Like he was just going to go get it, and he was just a wrecking ball, and got the rebound and put back. And that was a crucial point in the game. 2 minutes left, 5-point game. You thought to yourself, "Uh-oh, like were they going to just like fart this game away?" Like I don't know. Luckily, they did not. Okay.
So controlling the pace of this game, going to look to continue that here in the second half.
All right, thank you, Paris. And so many of those shots that.
Another like long rebound, just like right into Capella's hands, like not an effort thing. They were in good position. It just happened.
Baseline. That 3-point attempt. Matthews way off. Offensive rebound by.
We've already seen that one. Somehow that got labeled as something else. Okay. So I walk away from this little exercise thinking, is rebounding a problem? Yes, it is a problem. Are there fixable problems within what happened in the Hawks game? Absolutely. I think a lot of it's positioning. There's a few effortless plays from the Thunder that certainly bounced a little bit more toward the Hawks, but the Hawks were also like in position and ready to take advantage of the Thunder, where it did not seem like the Thunder were ready. And so those are issues that can be cleaned up. Some of them weren't offensive rebounds at all, where they were just tipped and secured by the Thunder, tipped by the Hawks, secured by the Thunder, not an offensive rebound. So does the 25, when you look at the box score, looks terrible. It looks awful. However, watching those, I don't feel quite as bad. And there were maybe like 4 effort plays where I was like, yeah, the Thunder like really screwed that up, and they can clean that up. And then there were another like 6 or 7, maybe there were 10 that were just like, yeah, that this is a personnel issue for the Thunder. But like you can give up 10 offensive rebounds a game and be fine. You can give up 12 I mean, heck, the Thunder gave up 25, and still won the game. But, as we saw, not really exactly what you would think what you would think to see when you look at 25 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, I think the other thing I mentioned there were like two main things that I've seen this season. One of them is just these guys running in from the perimeter and not getting boxed out. Another one is that Chet is so involved in rim protection. He tends to not be as involved in defensive rebounding on those plays. Like when he's blocking someone. And the other great thing about Chet, and by the way, Thinking Basketball did a 10-minute video on Chet that they released last night on YouTube. And one of the things he brought up was that Chet tends to keep the ball in bounds when he blocks a shot.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when he's blocking a shot, the ball is staying in bounds. And it almost feels like the other players haven't adjusted to that yet. Where last season they kind of knew, like, if Jay Will's at the 5, like, he's not going to be able to be some amazing rim protector. So we all kind of have to crash the boards. Now, like, you do have that protection behind you. But once Chet blocks that shot, like, he's probably not in a position to get the rebound every single time. And so he needs more help there. And that's where, Giddey or Dort or whoever else is on the court can help him out a little bit more. Because I do think, especially Giddey, like, he has been so elite at rebounding. And if he just gets back to just normal for him, last year, he rebounded the ball 17 times against the Lakers. He had a game against the Lakers with 17 rebounds. Like, this guy is incredible as a rebounder. I'm not asking him to do that. If he can just get back to where he was last year, I think a lot of this will work itself out because he does really play an important role on that side of the ball when it comes to defensive rebounding. I mean, we can talk about his issues, like trying to guard guys on the perimeter, but he really does offer this team something important when it comes to defensive rebounding. And he just has to get back to where he was. We're not asking him to do something he hasn't done before or that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I think he will. Like, I just think it's going to get better for him. I just have to believe that it will. Yeah, he's averaging 6 per game so far through these 7 games. And I just think that number is going to have to be better. I mean, he's 7.9 last year, 7.8 his rookie season. I think he needs to be at 8. I think he needs to be at 8. He's a full rebound less, right now on the defensive end than he was last year. I just think that number is going to get better. So I'm really not even that concerned about it. Like, they're going to not be a good rebounding team, and they have given that up in favor of playing with pace and playing more positionless. And I'm kind of in favor of it, especially with a young team. Like, you might as well try to do something like very different. And I think that they just need a chance to get a little better, and Giddey will get better. Like, this is not where Josh Giddey is going to land as a player. He just hasn't had a great start. I'm not concerned about it. His free throw attempts are actually at a career low right now per game. I think that will get better. I think he's going to get better. I just am unconcerned with it. I think he's going to be fine.
I posted on Twitter yesterday. I was looking at Dort's DPM, which is an all-in-one stat, because it's definitely reflecting like his recent improvements, which I think. But as I was doing that, I was looking at Giddey's, and the shape of Giddey's progression is very funny, and I'm going to share it on the screen. It just has this like very obvious like peak and trough. If you can you share it?
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, it's just like you can clearly see when last season started.
Yeah,
and you can see what's happening right now.
Yep.
And I think the hope is that we have another one of those upticks, and hopefully it's higher than the peak was last season, which, like post All-Star break, Josh Giddey was very good.
Yeah.
And that was the best he had played in his career based on this stat. And I think based on just the eye test. And so you hope that once he bounces out of this, that he is able to get to a new high for him. But I just thought the shape of his was very funny because like Dort was the opposite. Dort has basically been flatlined for the last 3 years. And then he had a huge uptick starting off this season. So it's kind of fun to track the player's progress. I wanted to share a few stats,
Mm-hmm.
starting with some positives.
Mm-hmm.
Quick note on Dort. Dort, 20% of his shots are corner threes.
Shout out to Dort.
20%. Last 3 seasons, that number was 11%, 8%, and 8%.
Yep.
20% now are corner threes. That is awesome. He's shooting 50% on those corner threes right now. This was exciting to me, though, because there was a play last night where Dort drove it. And, we've seen what Dort does on drives. We've seen some, terrible attempts, but he passed it, and it was a really good pass. So, first of all, just his drives per game the last 3 seasons, 10.5, 9.4, this year 4.7. He's cut his drives in half. What percentage of the time on those drives is he passing the ball? The last 3 seasons, 44.2%, 46%, 55% this season.
Wow.
So on 55% of his drives, he is passing the ball, and he's driving it half as much as he has in the past.
Wow.
I think he's making such better decisions with the ball, and he's finally, I feel like, in a position to succeed. Like these last couple of years, we kind of were exploring Dort. Like, let's see what Dort can do. I feel like he is finally in like the perfect role for him. I feel similarly about Cason Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that he can't be more than this role, but he is in such a position to succeed right now. He, in comparison to Dort, I said 20% of Dort shots are corner threes. 27% of Cason shots are corner threes, and he's shooting 67% on those, which is incredible. He had a few really nice defensive plays against the Hawks where his anticipation with his back to the ball, like where he's guarding Trey and someone is passing the ball back to Trey, and they're doing it because they think that Cason doesn't know because he's not even facing the ball, and he was able to like put out his hand and get a steal and get a dunk. That happened twice in that game. And I just think he is in like such a perfect role for a rookie right now. And that's why the shooting is it's not sustainable. He would be the greatest shooter of all time. But I do feel like the way he's succeeding right now is sustainable for the rest of this season. Like, I don't expect a rookie wall with him in the same way that I might with another player, just because the things he's being asked to do, I just think he's already good at. He's already fitting into that role so perfectly. Now, eventually, they're probably going to ask him to do more just to see, like, what is the upside, whether that's playmaking or self-creation. We're probably going to get more and more of that sprinkled in as we go. But for where he is right now, I just think he is in an absolutely perfect role.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really, really smart. That's something that Mark keeps touching on, is his intellect and how he just picks up on things so easily that he feels like he can just throw him into any situation, that he can play him as a power forward offensively, that he can play him as the point guard. He can put him all over the court. I mean, he's had some really tough defensive assignments so far, and he's being trusted with those. It's been really interesting that they've been able to work him in, because there's several rookies that just like don't get to play at all. You know, like Jarris Walker was somebody that I thought would play a lot. Taylor Hendricks doesn't play at all. Anthony Black has played some,
mostly because of injury, though.
Mostly because not as like intention. Where with Cason, I mean, he is one of the 2 guaranteed guys off the bench so far this season, where he's going to play, and that's been pretty interesting. Yeah, Anthony Black has played in 5 games, 5 of the 7 games for Orlando. So he's averaging 6, 2, and 1. He's playing pretty well so far too. But yeah, some of these guys just aren't even getting an opportunity to play, which is really interesting. Guys in the top 10. So that's kind of fascinating. He has a small role, but he's playing a lot of minutes, and he is impactful in those minutes. Yeah, Kobe Buffkin, Gregory Castillo in the chat. Buffkin also broke his thumb, fractured his thumb, so he's out for a minute. So
that also just feels like such a hard rotation to break into, because like they're barely playing AJ Griffin.
They're not. I mean, he didn't play at all the other night.
Yeah, he didn't play in the OKC game, but like even in their previous games, I think he was averaging like 10 minutes a game. So if he's not getting minutes, like Kobe doesn't have a shot.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's kind of bizarre what's going on in Atlanta. And they've had a nice start to their season, but looking at, I mean, like Garrison Matthews played. Like what's going on here? Like why is
Gary Bird.
Yeah, Gary Bird. What's going on here? I mean, AJ Griffin has played 45 minutes in 5 games. He hadn't played at all in 2 of their games. I mean, that's just strange to me. And yeah, I mean, Sadiq Bey, obviously they favor him over Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey is also like 4 years older than him. But yeah, there's some weirdness going on. Trae Young was really weird in that game, and
Dude, he was his shot selection against the Thunder, and give the Thunder some credit for like putting him in those positions, but his shot selection was off. His passing was off. He had a couple passes that were just just thrown out of bounds, turnovers. Unclear what he was even thinking on the play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a tough one because he is good. He's a very good NBA player, but for the role that he's in, which on most teams is going to be like the number 1 guy, he's very far down that list for me. Like I acknowledge that he's like a great NBA player, but if I'm picking who I want to be the number 1 guy on my team, he is so far down on that list compared to some other guys.
I would trade him.
You would trade him, Andrew?
I would trade him. Yeah.
I said
I'm 33% from the field this season so far.
33% from the field. No.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh wait, I thought you were making me guess. That's Trae.
Yeah, Trae.
Oh wow,
33%.
That's not good.
I mean, he's never been great from the field. He's 42% last year. Like he's obviously going to be better than this, but it seems like he and Quinn Snyder don't quite see eye to eye on some things quite yet. Is the way that it seems to me. Because Quinn pregame, we talked to him, and he's talking about how weird it is because this team has been together for some time. It's like mostly some of the same guys, but he's like, we're having to like learn each other. And like I think it seems like what he means by that is like they're having to learn how I want them to do things and having to like unlearn the ways that they have played in the past.
Yeah.
And to me, that is almost like screaming like this is about Trae Young. Because like who else would that be about? And he's still scoring 21 points per game because he's taking 17 shots, but it's interesting.
I kind of like the Hawks. The jump that Jalen Johnson has made makes their team look so much better just overall, because now you start looking across the board and it's like, wow, they really do have some like nice young pieces with like Okongwu and Jalen Johnson. Now I think we still both really like AJ Griffin. He'll eventually probably get in the rotation at some point. Like they really do. They are set up well. It's just a matter of like, is Trae going to be that guy for the next 5 years? Because I think their surrounding pieces are good.
Yeah, I think you could get something really nice for Trae. Slide in Buffkin. Let's go, Buffkin boys.
Slide in Buffkin. Okay, you want to hear some of the what? You want to hear some of these giddy stats?
Yeah, let's take a quick break and then let's hear some giddy stats. And we're back after the quick break. It's time for some giddy stats.
So as we mentioned, Giddy's not having the greatest start to the season. So I just wanted to dig in and see like what is it specifically that he's been struggling with. And just eye test, it feels like his drives against a set defense versus him either in transition or coming off a screen, it's just a totally different game. And when he's driving to the rim against a set defense, good things happen so rarely because he's not like the most explosive guy. And a lot of times I feel like if Chet is anywhere near the rim, like in the dunker spot, the drive has zero chance of succeeding for Giddey because Capella was just camping out and just waiting for Giddey. There were so many drives against the Hawks where Capella's just sitting back, just waiting for Giddey to come to him. And Giddey is, focused on like his defender, who maybe he does get by or he has like a step on, but it doesn't matter because Capella's right there. On the other hand, there was at least one drive where Chet was stretched out to the 3-point line, and all of a sudden it was so much easier for Giddey to get to the rim. So I do think that's a component to it. But the good news is that 47% of his shots are coming at the rim this season, which is the highest of his career. Like he is getting to the rim more than he's ever gotten before. The problem is he's shooting 50% on those rim attempts right now, which obviously would be the lowest of his career. And I think Dort level. And when you watch, you can just go on NBA.com and watch his attempts last night. There are just so many where you can screenshot it and there are like 3 or 4 Hawks in the paint collapsing on Josh Giddey for some reason. And this is a guy who's we all think is like one of the best passers in the league.
Yeah,
I mean, he's an incredible passer.
No question.
And on so many of those plays, it feels like there are Thunder players who are either wide open for 3 that he could hit or guys who are cutting in. And I feel like 2 years ago, he was hitting so much more of those cutters. Like when he would attract that kind of attention on a drive, he would have a lot of these like dump off passes that would lead to an easy attempt. And as an example of that, I mentioned with Dort, the percentage of his drives where he's passing has been going up and up and up. Now it's at 55%. It's the complete opposite with Josh. So 2 years ago, his rookie season, basically, well, first I should mention that he's had the same number of drives per game since his rookie season, about 12 drives per game. His rookie season, he was passing on 50% of his drives. Yeah. Last year, it was down to 39%. This year, it's down to 32%. And the Hawks game was uniquely bad in that instance, in that he only passed on 15% of his drives. That number keeps going down, and I think it's taking away from something that he's like really good at. I think there are opportunities there for him on some of these plays to do some really creative passes that he did 2 years ago that he's not doing as much now. And I'm sure part of that is what he talked about in the offseason. Like he not only wants to get to the rim more, but he specifically wants to get to the rim so that he can get to the line. And so there is an element to it where I feel like he's almost forcing it on some of these drives because he just wants to get to the line. And he's getting a lot of contact, but he's not getting the calls. I mean, I think he's had 9 free throws through these first 7 games.
He's getting no calls, and he's getting hammered on some of these drives too. And like it feels to me like this happens every single year in the NBA, where there's like a point of emphasis for the officials, where like they will go, I don't know, 20 games or 10 games or whatever into the season and like hit these points of emphasis, and then they will just slowly revert back to the way that things were last season. And one of those just seems to be foul calls. Is like there's just not enough foul calls. I mean, you look at not only Giddey, who's not getting foul calls, in SGA. I mean, I asked him about it after the game, and like he and J-Dub were at the podium together, and it was just like they just don't really have an explanation. I mean, Shea is half of what he was last year.
Yeah. On what I believe is the same number of drives, if not more.
Yeah, he is leading the league in drives again and getting 5 per game. And there are a lot of opportunities for them to blow the whistle. And so I just have to believe that's going to turn around at some point, not only for Shea, but for Josh as well. Because you look at like the free throw attempts. I mean, it's Shea, Chet, J-Dub, Dort, Bertans in his one game got fouled on a 3-point shot. Isaiah Joe, Jay Will, Olivier Sarr, and then Giddey at 1.3 per game.
Which, when you look at the drive numbers, that's like unbelievable because Giddey's still driving 12 times a game.
And he's still getting hit. So I just have to believe that that's going to change, that is going to turn around at some point. Because like you can tell that those guys are pretty frustrated by it. Because I think my question was something like you guys are both, to J-Dub and to Shea, like you guys are both still driving a lot. Like, does the contact feel different? Like, is there something that feels different from last year as to why you guys are not getting to the free throw line? And they both just kind of like smiled and looked at each other and they're like, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know why.
Yeah. So for Giddey, like, I think if he's going to succeed on some of these drives, one, I think he always looks better when he's coming off a screen or can get downhill before the defender can, just get ready for him. Because he had a play like that, I think, against DeJounte Murray, where it was like a dribble handoff or something, but he was able to get a step on DeJounte Murray and it worked out. So I like him on those types of plays. And maybe that means, doing some more pick and roll with Chet, because if you can bring Chet's man up and then you have Chet as this outlet shooting from three, either you're going to get a great shot from Chet or that center is going to be pulled out and it's going to be easier for Josh. I just think that the rim attempts he's taking right now are so difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going up against like 2-3 defenders every single time on a lot of these. It's just not going to work out. It's not sustainable. And I know he's just trying, he's trying to develop this game that allows him to get to the line, because that is a super important part of his game going forward.
Yeah.
But they just haven't either been good by design, or it's just him getting tunnel vision on some of these drives.
Yeah. I think he'll work. I think this will work itself out. I mean, you even look at his assist percentage overall. 32% his rookie season, 29% last year, 21% this year.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be better than that, because he's still trying to figure out like who he is as a player, period, because he's still only 21 years old. Like, he's very young. But I think eventually he's going to settle into like being the ultimate connector on this team with all these weapons. And we haven't really seen that yet. They've tried to do that some when they played zone. They'll put him in the middle of the zone and try to get him to pick apart guys. And he has, struggled a little bit. He's just struggled overall. And he's also just such a rhythmic player. And he is clearly just kind of out of rhythm right now. And so it feels big. Like, it feels like a big issue. But the truth is, if this was like game 50 to 57, I don't think we'd be quite as worried about it, as we are, games 1 through 7, like these blips happen all the time. Like, he's not like suddenly not a good NBA player. Like, I just think he's going to turn this around and figure it out. And he's going to have some weeks where he's really, really good, and some stretches where he's really good, and some stretches where he looks like this again. And that's because he's a young player, and young players, like, the difference between like a vet and a young player is like, vets know how to do the thing consistently. Like, here are the things I'm good at, and I'm going to do them consistently. And Josh is going to get there, but like, you can't fast forward the lessons of life. You can't fast forward through like these early years with the Thunder, just thinking that they can just become more consistent. They're still outrageously young, and like, these are some of the lumps they have to take. And luckily, like, they still, I feel like we're talking a little negative today, but like they still won that game against the Hawks. Like, that's a big win, and they kind of needed it. I remember I sat down next to Brandon Rabar and was just like, I kind of think they have to win this game tonight. Like, if they're going to be a good team this year, you have to go beat Atlanta, because the schedule does not soften up. Like, they play Cleveland tonight, Sacramento on Friday, which is an in-season tournament game. And I don't know if De'Aaron Fox is going to be back. The Kings have been really weird about his injury.
They dropped 2 straight to Houston, and they got like destroyed in both games.
Yeah, like bad. So if Fox isn't back by then, which I would be a little surprised if he was, just the nature of the ankle injury that he has, but we'll see. It's possible that he's back by then. Phoenix on Sunday, which Beal should be back. Like, that should be a interesting one. Also, they're not the best rebounding team either, so the Thunder should. And like,
what is
defensively in the middle?
What is Nurk shooting at the rim? He's shooting is like some hilariously bad number. Let me see. He's also shooting 50% at the rim.
Yeah,
he's shooting 17% in the short mid range.
He's almost 300 pounds, 6'11". He's just cooked, and he's been cooked. And like, people have known that. It speaks so poorly of DeAndre Ayton that they were like, you know what? We just kind of rather have a restart, and we'll take that guy. That's fine. They're like closing games with Drew Eubanks, and God bless Drew Eubanks, but you should not be closing games with Drew Eubanks. It's bizarre. So that's an interesting one to me, how they match up against them, because I think they match up pretty favorably. Like, unless those Suns players just get hot and just have a game where they combine for 120 points, and I don't know what Booker's status is by then. Will be
I know he's out tonight. I think.
So
Yeah, just to tie a bow on the Giddey discussion, I think the reason it feels different this season is because if you think back to last season, we were more stressing out when he got off to the rough start. Which, by the way, I was going looking at his game log.
mhm.
His rebounds totals in his first 5 games, 11, 12, very good, 2, 1, 1. So he had,
Mm.
like, some bad rebounding games there as well.
Mhm.
But last year, it felt like we were freaking out because it was like, this is one of our guys. Like, he has to be good.
Yeah.
Like, Josh needs to be good because we didn't know about J-Dub at that time. Chet was obviously
Mhm.
hurt. Kaysen wasn't on the team. The
Mhm.
conversation now seems to be shifted because it's less about that and it's more about Chet looks amazing. Like, why isn't Chet getting all these plays run for him? Like, we
Mhm.
want to see more from Jada. We want to see more from Kaysen, and we're still running a lot of this through Giddey. Like, Giddey
Yeah.
is still getting a lot of these opportunities. So I think where there's frustration, it's because of that, where people just want to see guys like Chet, who, Chet, I saw a list today. There's like 8 players who are currently 50, 40, 90, and Chet and Kaysen are 2 of the guys on the list.
Yeah.
It's hard not to see 2 guys come out of the gate as hot as they are and not be like, we have to see more of this, because that's what we did last year with Isaiah Joe. He comes out amazing and it's like they have to get him more time. And so I
Mhm.
think fans feel that with both Kaysen and Chet and J-Dub to some extent. And that's where the frustration is with Giddey this season. Whereas last year it was like, oh no, why is Giddey not this? Like, he has to be good. Like, who
Mhm.
else is going to be good on this team other than Shea? So it's interesting. I do think there will be a shift at some point. I mean, Chet is just too good. He's
Yeah.
too good. He's already the second best player on this team. He is so impactful when he is
Yeah.
on the court. And even in a game against the Hawks, where I don't even think he shot the ball that well, he was awesome. Like, he played such a huge role for them defensively. And I think he hit a 3 or something. The great thing about that thinking basketball video is, as we're talking about Chet and wanting to see him expand his game, one thing he does a really good job of pointing out is how many different things Chet has already done this season that are kind of amazing. Like, how versatile.
Mhm.
So it's like he's had those self-creation moments that we saw in summer league. They're not happening as much as they happen in summer league, but we are getting them, and there's been some really impressive ones. And so you just wonder, when is the shift going to happen with this team where Chet starts playing the offensive role that it seems like he should be playing,
Yeah.
because he's been incredible on that end. And it feels
Yeah.
like there's so much untapped there.
Yeah. And Mark addressed that pregame, um, where he said it's just similar to J-Dub at the beginning of last season, where they have like a very specific plan for these guys, and they want to like not overwhelm them to start the
Yeah.
season. So they really want to. He Mark calls it clearing hurdles, and he's like he's clearing every hurdle so far, like very easily. He used the same language with J-Dub last year, where by mid-season, J-Dub was like amazing and taking so many different responsibilities, and they were putting him in all these different positions as the season wore on. And I think it'll be the same for both Kaysen and Chet, that they will continue to kind of give them more responsibilities and put them in different spots. And I think what's good about Giddey is like Giddey is going to be really good at getting those guys in the spots that they need to be, once they kind of figure that out. And I think there's a feeling out period. Like, this team is, man, this team is outrageously talented. Like, they're really, really good. It just is going to take time for them to really figure out how to best put the team overall in position to win. And I agree with you. I think Chet is so good. He generated 7 points off of his blocks
Yeah.
because he was
I
blocking
mean, that him in
teammates.
transition is
Dude,
absurd.
he's
I
a
mean,
he's a monster.
I mean,
He's a
that highlight with Kaysen was probably like the most amazing
Oh my gosh.
transition play of the year so far. Um, just because it was so casual. It was the fact that he even attempted that, and then it was a perfect pass, for a perfect behind the back pass.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just hard not to want to move forward, because that if he was healthy last season, we would be in a different spot right now.
Yeah.
Like, he would, and I just want to know what that would look like. Like,
Sure.
what does Chet on this team look like after the team has, got him through all these hurdles, and where they finally like agree and want him to be whatever that is? It's going to look totally different.
Yeah. I think he's like 2023 Kevin Garnett.
Ooh.
I think he is. I said this on Monday with McKelly. I sincerely think that there's a chance that he's the best player on this team in like 4 years, where it's like, yeah, like he's the most like well-rounded player on the team. And the tandem of he and Shea
Yeah.
is going to be so scary because Shea is a top 10 player in the league. And if you have those two paired together.
And then you just think about other teams in the league. Like once you get beyond, if you really do have like let's say 2 top 20 players, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility for Chet and Shea.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
You know, that might be underselling it. If you have that, you look around the league at teams that have something like that and who their third player is, you know, whether that's like the Lakers with Austin Reeves, who are some, I mean, Boston, I guess it would be like Porzingis or Jaylen Brown. Like, I feel like we already have the guys on our team who could be that third player. Immediately thinking about J-Dub. And now we're thinking about the fourth player, and now we're talking about like Giddey or Kaysen. And so I do think there's an element to this where it is going to all work out eventually. And we're just kind of in this weird transition phase where Giddey has played an outsized role for his first couple seasons because he's needed to. And similar to Dort, that his role is going to shift and change as someone like Chet takes on more and more responsibilities. And so the version of Giddey that we see game 1 next year is probably going to be a much different role than what we're seeing this year. And we may be celebrating Giddey in the same way we're celebrating Dort this year, where it's like, okay, this is the perfect role for Giddey. Maybe his 3-point shot has improved. You know, maybe he's the drives that he's taking make a lot more sense, and he's getting a good advantage on each of those. I think that's where we're headed. But yeah, it can be frustrating at times now just because you see Chet and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like we may have nailed this.
He is so absurd. I mean, he's so skilled. Defensively, he's just an absolute monster. Offensively, he's kind of good at everything. And like the shooting is the thing that is really very interesting. That's why the tandem of he and Shea is going to be so lethal, because the fact that because he can score around the rim and he can shoot it from 3, they're eventually just going to be impossible to defend. And that's, J-Dub, I think, hadn't shot the ball particularly well. And if Dort's continued like good shooting from the corners, I think is going to be really essential if he's going to be a part of like that starting lineup. You also know that like Kaysen's waiting in the wing too, who can really, I think, shoot the ball. So yeah, I mean, they've done an amazing job. They have a potential lottery pick coming their way from the Rockets in this next draft, and it's not supposed to be the best draft, but I think for a team that does the work, that puts in the work like the Thunder do, they could go get somebody that could help this team. I think we think about this team like they are now, just like kind of like moving into the future, and maybe that's what happens. But there are a lot of changes to come for this team as far as like what they're going to look like on the court, what they're going to look like personnel wise, because they do have a ton of options moving forward with like high level options, especially with what they've done with these Clippers picks. It's like, man, like they're going to have a lot of options on the table, whether that be select somebody in the lottery that could change the way your team looks, or make a trade for somebody that that like, hey, X player would fit so well with what we're doing and would take us to that exact next level we need to get to. It's crazy what they're going to be able to do, and the fact that you have Shea and Chet and J-Dub and Giddey and Dort's been good, Kaysen's been really good. It's like, man, the number of players that like you trust, that like, man, I think that they can really play in the playoffs. K Rich and J Will, put them on the list too. It's like, man, like they already have a lot of those guys on their team right now. And, we don't know if guys like Oos or players like that. I would put Isaiah Joe on the list too, by the way.
I was going to say, do you know who has the best on-off numbers for the Thunder this year?
Isaiah Joe.
Isaiah Joe.
Isaiah Joe's been really good. too.
He has been. I mean, those threes, I was actually going to mention, but that Hawks game, like if they don't have Isaiah Joe, I don't know if they win that game because those 3 threes he hit in a row gave them the space they needed to like screw up in the rest of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They needed that so bad.
It's true. Kevin Knox signed with the Pistons. Pretty excited.
One thing I will say about the Pistons,
Mhm.
dude, if he could shoot, which I know is it may not happen, but Asar Thompson legitimately would be the greatest like 5th player for this Thunder team because his rebound, he's been an incredible rebounder so far.
A monster. He's a monster.
And he has the defense and he has the passing. He is such a Thunder player. I wonder how interested they were in him and if they made any attempts to move up and get him. Because man, I get that he can't shoot, and when you're in a playoff situation, they'll make him take 14 threes in a game like they did to Dort once upon a time. But gosh, everything else would fit with this team.
Yeah, it would. I just wonder how many more non-shooters that you can actually have on the team.
Yeah, I mean, it depends who's in the lineup. I mean, if it's Shea, J-Dub, Isaiah Joe, and Chet, like you can get away with that.
Yeah,
easily.
Yeah. I just wonder, especially with a commitment to Giddey, like how many more guys that you can like that. Because Asar Thompson's going to play a massive role for like no matter where he's at.
Yeah,
I think he's amazing. I think he's great. I just wonder with this team, like how many more non-shooters can you really take on?
Oh, Andrew, I was wrong. Isaiah Joe's not number 1 in on-off.
Oh, that changed after the last game?
Yeah, Shea moved ahead of him.
Oh, nice.
Too bad.
Shea with like
Cayson's number 3 now.
We haven't even like mentioned Shea's name on this podcast hardly at all. He came back and scored 30, like the most quiet 30 points ever.
Super quiet 30. Yes.
I mean, yeah, it was. He's still very good. Turns out.
and the 3-ball was working.
Yeah,
took 7 threes.
Yeah, he was
pretty cool.
He had some really sick moves in that game too.
That one where I think he was being guarded by Jalen Johnson on the baseline.
Yes,
and Jalen like reached a little bit to his left.
Yeah,
and Shea just immediately spun the other way and just took like a wide open, fadeaway jumper. That was very cool.
And then how about Giddey, just like in and out dribble move, drops bogey to his butt. Did you see that?
I don't even remember that one.
Giddey was just like bringing the ball up, and he's like just did this like quick little move, and like Bogdanovich just like falls down. It was great.
Well, I think the best sequence was when Chet blocks it at one end, Giddey brings it up, hits Shea for a catch and shoot 3.
Yeah,
it was like, wow, that's perfect. Everything is perfect.
There it is. Yeah. Also, Chris Tucker was at the game and was like really feeling himself in the game. He like stood up at one point during a timeout and just like started like pumping the crowd up just because like I'm Chris Tucker, and like everybody was just very excited. He was throwing t-shirts out. I asked Mark about it post game. Mark has never looked at me so confused. I have the video clip right here. Are you a Chris Tucker fan?
I mean, I don't know. Who.
Did you see Chris Tucker in the crowd tonight? You know Chris Tucker, the actor?
Oh yeah. He was here tonight?
Yeah, he's here.
I didn't see him.
You didn't see him throwing t-shirts in the crowd?
I didn't see him throwing t-shirts.
Okay.
No. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm more worried about the rebounding.
Oh, Mark is just the greatest. More worried about the rebounding is such a great line after me asking him about Chris Tucker.
What did you think he was going to say? Did you think you would unearth that he was like as big a Chris Tucker fan as he is a Springsteen fan?
No, not at all. I thought it would end up with a really like weird feeling after I asked him it, which is kind of why I asked him, just because Mark is so quick on his feet. It's like he's genuinely a funny person, and so that was the very last question of the presser too, and like pretty much everything that you would want to be asked had already been asked, and it was like, all right, we got time for one more, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna ask him about Chris Tucker, and it delivered. He was so good. He was at first so confused, like, oh my gosh, who is this? Why is this? Is he like asking me about like the two-way player on the Hawks or something that I don't know?
I bet we get some celebrities for the game next Tuesday.
Hey, Chet Wemby, there better be some kind of celebrity. There better be a celebrity sitting courtside, above Chris Tucker level. Chris Tucker, I guess, is performing in town, and also Trae Young's dad is apparently good friends with him, and
really?
invited him to the game. So that's something that happened.
Didn't Lil Wayne come to a Thunder game once upon a time?
I think Lil Wayne did, like back in the day. Yes.
Yeah, back in the day.
It's funny, like how little we see celebrities here. Like what a big deal it is. Like,
how exciting!
Went to like a Lakers game, like no one would ever talk about it.
Yeah, that's true. That should be a selling point for the Thunder to bring more celebrities courtside.
Yeah,
and we will shower you with love, no matter who you are. We don't care.
You could be a C-list celebrity and be like, oh my gosh. Yeah. All right, Down to Dunk Night next week. Slob Wizard shirts available now. Go get them. Go to the Down to Dunk Twitter account, and I believe the tweet for the shirt is pinned to the top of our profile. So get yourself a Slob Wizard shirt, and be sure to show up to Down to Dunk Night. It's going to be so much fun. Chet and Wemby on Down to Dunk Night. I can't even believe it. It's going to be so good, and Alex is going to be there. Even better. All right. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you guys again on Friday.